So I'm sure by now you've heard of Chat GPT. It's an AI model that you can ask basically any question and it'll give you a human-like response, usually with a pretty scary level of accuracy. I'm sure it's gonna take over the world someday, but until then, we're gonna have some fun with it. Because I've been working for months to create the ultimate New York style pizza recipe, but today we're gonna see if Chat GPT can beat me. Write me a recipe for an authentic New York style pizza. That actually looks pretty good. First thing I noticed though, it doesn't give me the ingredients in weight, so let me just see if it can convert. That looks pretty good actually. That looks like a pretty legit New York style pizza. I do need to get some clarification on a few things though. By the way, what is this thing's name? What is your name? Yeah, Chat GPT. Should have seen that one coming. Please give me a nickname I can call you. You can call me Chat if you would like. So I have a couple questions for Chat here. What brand of tomatoes should I use? San Marzano, it's not a brand. Muir Glen, Cento, Escalon. Okay, I'll probably go with Cento because that's what I've been using lately for mine. But even within Cento, there are a lot of different products. Which Cento product should I use? Cento's certified San Marzano Italian plum tomatoes that are peeled and crushed. Okay, I mean, that's what they want. All right, only time will tell if it's actually any good, but I think it's time to get started. All right, so I've got two different doughs here, but actually neither one of these is the AI dough yet. This one is my recipe, while this one is Adam Gusius. The reason I included Adam's dough is because it's easily the most popular New York style pizza recipe online, so I figured it'd be a good benchmark to compare against. But these doughs both actually need to rest in the fridge for 2 to 3 days before baking, where the AI dough doesn't. So before I get started on that one, we're gonna make the sauce. And mine is the most simple. It's just tomatoes, salt, sugar, and oregano, but by far the most important factor is the brand of tomatoes. I found these Cento all-in-ones to be my favorite retail brand because they're nice and sweet with a good amount of acidity as well. And I like to blend my sauce to make it as smooth as possible. Now Adam's sauce is similar to mine, but also with the addition of olive oil. And I couldn't find the brand he uses, so I just use these Hunt's tomatoes, which taste pretty good. And he didn't blend the sauce, so I'll just combine everything and stir it together. Now let's make Chat sauce. And for this one, we actually have to cook it. And by the way, people often ask me about this countertop burner I'm using, and I actually just got it off of Amazon. So if you're looking to get one too at the best price possible, you can do so with help from today's sponsor, Vetted. Vetted is a free web browser extension that allows you to find the best deals online so that you never overpay again. Because there's nothing worse than making a purchase only to see the item go on sale a few days later. I know we've all been there. So this is the butane burner that I have, and I do like it, but using Vetted to look at the price history, we can see that it's pretty much at the highest price it's ever been. Plus you also need to buy these butane canisters to go with it, which can get pretty expensive. So we may be able to find a better deal. So I'll just search in Amazon for countertop burner. And we can see there's one here that Vetted has ranked as excellent, which basically means that it's gotten great reviews from Vetted's expert sources. But scrolling down, we can also see awards it's won. We can see those expert reviews. We can see the price history, and we can compare with similar products. And if we keep scrolling, we actually see one with a deal alert. It's only $45, which is $12 off its average price. So if you're looking to get an induction burner at the best price possible, this one's probably the way to go. So to start saving time and money, you can install Vetted for free using my link below. It's super easy and it helps to support the channel so that I can continue making content like this. So thanks again to Vetted for sponsoring this video, and thank you for your support. Now, let's make some pizza sauce. So for Chat sauce, he wants me to use these San Marzano tomatoes, and he says to either crush by hand or to use a food processor. For me, since I'm lazy, I'm just gonna crush them by hand. Then it says add oregano, salt, no sugar, which actually makes sense given that we're cooking it, which is gonna sweeten the sauce a little bit. Then we got garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper. Then we'll just bring it to a simmer and cook for 20 to 25 minutes. All right, let's give them a try. So I may be biased, but I definitely like mine the best. I think most of that comes down to the fact that I just put so much time into choosing the best tomatoes, but I also really like the simplicity of the sauce. In Adam's, you can definitely taste that olive oil flavor, which isn't bad, but for me, it kind of makes the pizza end up too greasy by the time it's baked. Now Chat sauce. It's not bad just as a normal pizza sauce, but I can't really say that it's a New York style sauce. According to the internet, some New York pizzerias do include things like garlic powder, onion powder, and black pepper, and some spots do cook their sauce. But in my experience trying pizzas in New York, that seem to be very rare, and actually none of the pizzas I tried seem to include those ingredients. My bigger problem with it though is the fact that it's cooked. Those Cento tomatoes didn't really have a lot of acidity to begin with, and by simmering them for so long, that just reduced it even further. To me, the sauce just really sort of lacks that brightness and tang that I want. But the only thing that really matters is how they taste on the pizza. So let's throw these in the fridge and we'll talk dough. so it's 3 days later and I've got all of my doughs here. Mine, Adam's, and Chat GPT. The first is my recipe. And my main goal with this one was to recreate that crispness and chew that a good New York slice has, which I found that pretty much every other New York style pizza recipe online lacked. And since I have a whole video on this recipe, I'm not gonna rehash the whole thing here. But the main points are that I use a combination of high gluten flour plus some sifted rye flour for flavor. I use a hydration level of 65%, meaning 65 grams of water per 100 grams of flour. And then the only other ingredients I include are salt, sugar, and yeast. I also let the dough rest a few times throughout the mixing process to help it develop even more gluten. And after the initial rise, I let the dough balls rest in the fridge for 2 to 3 days to develop even more flavor. Now, Adam Ragusia's dough. And the main differences with his recipe are that he uses 100% bread flour, he includes olive oil in the dough, and he doesn't include the resting steps like I do. After the dough is mixed and kneaded, it just goes straight into the fridge for at least 24 hours, or he even says up to a week. And I actually tried his recipe at the very beginning of my New York style pizza series, but I didn't think that it really hit the mark on a proper New York slice. But now that I got my final recipe, I wanted to give it another try to see if I've actually done any better. And now last but certainly not least, we've got Chat's recipe. And the recipe actually looks pretty solid for a New York slice. It's almost the same as Adam Ragusia's recipe, but it uses a hydration of 59% rather than the 70% that Adam Ragusia uses, which was actually my biggest problem with his recipe. I thought that it used too high of a hydration, and so the slice didn't end up crispy enough. Now Chat also uses a lot of olive oil, about 6% as a baker's percentage, which is about double what Adam uses. So I could definitely tell while I was kneading that the dough had sort of a smoother, softer texture, and so I'm very curious to see how it'll actually bake up. So mine and Adam's are essentially the same. We stretch out the pizza by hand, then top it with the sauce, then I top mine with oregano and grated pecorino cheese, and Adam tops his with grated parmigiano. Then of course we'll add the low moisture mozzarella, and then bake on a preheated baking steel, so not a pizza stone, at the oven's highest possible temperature until the cheese just starts to separate, which takes about 4 to 5 minutes. Using a steel as opposed to a stone helps the bottom crust to crisp up a lot better. The one I use is the Baking Steel Pro, and the one Adam used is the Baking Steel Original. So we'll see in a bit how those compare. And if you're interested in getting one, you can use my link in the description below, along with the discount code Charlie10 to get 10% off your order. But now Chat's method, well, it's a little bit different. All right, divide the dough into 2 equal portions. So far, so good. Roll each portion out into a 12-inch circle on a lightly floured surface. Roll each portion out. There's no way I'm gonna get these into circle shapes though. So I'm gonna give Chat the benefit of the doubt here, do a little pre-shape, and then I'll let it rest for a couple minutes to relax. It's like a pita bread. Finger got caught on it. Then add a generous layer of tomato sauce, leaving a 1/2 inch border around the edge. I don't know, I'm gonna need an exact amount here. I'm not the type of person that just guesstimates when it comes to pizza. As a rule of thumb, you can use around 100 to 150. I'll just go with 125 right down the middle, leaving a 1/2 inch border around the edge. Looks pretty good. Now we add the fresh mozzarella. I mean, I don't hate fresh mozzarella, it's just not really traditional for this type of New York style pizza. But 16 ounces, which means 8 ounces for one pizza. All right, looks like a pretty decent amount of cheese actually. I thought it might be too much, but it doesn't look too bad. Transfer each pizza to the preheated stone using the parchment paper. That almost makes it sound like you slide it off the parchment paper, but that wouldn't really make any sense. How am I gonna, I'll just use this tray, kind of slide it off like that. All right, see how it goes. Here we go. So this AI pizza turned out a little bit funky. I think probably because it was baked for so long, but also because there was so much olive oil in the dough. I mean, I've never seen a crust this uniformly browned. And I don't really know if that's a good thing, but we'll see how it tastes. I'm gonna throw one of Adam's slices in the oven just for about a minute, and I'm gonna put it on the screen so that it doesn't get any crispier than it should be. We've also got my pizza here, which as you can see was baked quite a while ago, but that's okay because if you're familiar with my recipe, you'll know that I reheat each slice before serving. All right, let's eat these. And you can't have a New York slice without a paper plate. So between mine and Adam's, I definitely think that the work I put into making this slice paid off. Adam's is definitely a good pizza, but I wouldn't really call it an authentic New York slice. I mean, it's got kind of the right flavor profile, but the rest of it just isn't quite there. Namely, it's a little bit too thick, and it's just lacking that signature sort of crisp and chew that a New York slice has. It's hard to describe, it's almost just like a feeling. Like mine, you bite into it, and it feels like a New York slice. Adam's just doesn't have that same feel. I will say though, even with the original baking steel, Adam's dough got a pretty good crisp on the bottom. Now the AI pizza. Well, number one, it's definitely not an authentic New York slice. It doesn't really have the right flavor or the right texture. And the texture is really what's throwing me off most here. I think it was due to all that olive oil in the dough, maybe the longer bake time as well. Almost has sort of a pan pizza feel because of that uniform thickness. Like I said though, I mean, you can't really make a bad pizza. It still tastes pretty decent. It's just kind of weird. But anyways, if you haven't seen my New York slice series, where I walked through the entire process of learning to make this slice and eventually got to the result that I'm happy with, you can check that out right here. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you over there.